ओम नमः शिवाय आचार्य जी।
ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां
ओम शंकराचार्य
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
मध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्।
ॐ सहना
ओम
भवतु
सहनावतु सहनौ
सह
भुनक्तु
वीर्यं
सह
कर्वावहै
वीर्यं करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै।
ॐ
शान्ति
शान्तिः।
शान्ति शान्ति।
शान्ति शान्तिः।
हरि ओम्।
हरि ओम।
हरि ओम्।
Okay. We will chant verse number 48 of the 18th chapter. Shri Bhagavanuvāca Shri
श्रीभगवान्
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Sahajam karma kaunteya
सहजं कर्म कौन्तेय
Sadoshamapi natyajet
सदोषमपि न त्यजेत्
Sarvarambha hi doshena
सर्वारम्भपरिहासिदोषेण
धूमेनाग्निरिवाव्रताः
नाग्निर्निवाव्रिताः।
So, Krishna has said here, Sahajam karma na tyajit. You should not renounce your karma. And Shankara in his commentary added, Tasmat Nityajit iti arthaha. You should not renounce karma at all. This is what is intended. Why? Because Ajnani cannot renounce karma at all, completely. And then I said that here there's a very interesting uh, portion of Shankaracharya's commentary, Bhashyam, where he talks about whether it is possible to renounce karma at all. And since this is a very important idea, we will look at this. So, this debate consists of several members, Advaitins, Vishishtadvaitins, Dvaitins, etc. So, one question is raised by an Advaitin. Why cannot karma be given up? Is it because, why does Krishna say that don't give up karma? So the question is, does Krishna say this? Does Krishna say that karma should not be given up because of the fact that karma by nature is such that it cannot be given up? Okay, so this is an important idea. Why is Krishna saying don't give up karma? Is it because the nature of karma is such that it cannot be given up at all? That is one question. Or is it because there will be pratyavaya papam if one gives up karma, you remember, is your Vaidika karma, which is your swadharma, mandated by the Shastra. So if you give up karma, is it because there will be papa? So to put it briefly, does Krishna say do not give up karma because of the impossibility of giving up karma? Or does he say because it will result in pratyavaya papa? That is the question asked by the Advaitin. Then another member gets up and says, Kim Chataha. What is all this discussion about? Why should we get into all these debates? The second member says, let us forget this debate. A third member says, if you are saying that do not give up karma because it is not possible to give up karma. So this is answering the Advaita. If you are saying that Krishna said, don't give up karma simply because it is the nature of karma that it cannot be given up, then Krishna should not have used the word renounce, right? Because if you can't give something up, how can you renounce it? He should not have said that, right? And that's the answer, that he should not have used the word renounce. He should not have said that. He should not have said, don't renounce. If karma cannot be given up, he should not have said, don't renounce. Right? But did he mean that the karma is a difficult karma, and therefore if you renounce difficult karma, there is a great amount of merit in renouncing something which is difficult? Is that the meaning? What is the meaning? Did Krishna say, if Krishna was going to say that you cannot give up the karma because it is not possible to give up, then he should not said don't give up, right? He should have said you give it up. You see the argument. If it was not possible to give up, what is the point of saying give up? Natyajit. What is the point of saying don't give up? So when he actually should have said Tyajit, you should give up. So argument is very specious. It says, if it is true that karma cannot be given up, then Krishna should not have said, don't give up. He should have said, you give up. By implying that it's not really that you cannot give it up, but it is very difficult to give it up. And if you give up something very difficult, then there is a lot of punyam attached to that. So this is the third person. Okay, then a fourth person comes. If Krishna meant that this is not possible to give up, right? He's talking about third person. Third person is saying that if it is a difficult karma, so give it up. So the fourth person says that if it is true that the impossible can be done, then how can you say that it is great? Because doing the impossible is a logical contradiction, right? The word impossible means something which is not possible. How can you use the verb doing with that? You cannot possibly be doing an impossible karma. It's like saying, that Saint Agastya drank the ocean. It's really an impossible task. You can't drink the ocean. But, so you get the idea. It's a very subtle idea that if Rishi Agastya is praised for drinking the ocean. Now, that's an impossible task. That is why he's being praised for it. But on the other hand, if he really drank the ocean, the task was not really impossible, was it? So that's what has been pointed out here. Never say that doing something which is impossible is great because it is a logical contradiction. Why? If it is impossible, it cannot be done. Therefore, you cannot praise somebody for doing it. And if it is done, it was not impossible. Therefore, he says, complete renunciation of karma is not possible. Total renunciation of karma is not possible. Where is the question of punyam and papam here? Okay. So remember that these are not just, discussions for the point of wasting time. They're all going to a particular idea. So now Advaitan comes back. He addresses the fourth person. He says, I'll give you two reasons. Which of these reason is the background behind your statement? He says, Atma is constantly moving in action. Purushaha, Jivatma, is constantly moving in action. And if Atma is always active, how will it ever be able to give up action? Right? So he's talking about Jivatma, Purushaha. That Jivatma is constantly active. Right? It's just the nature of the Jivatma to be active. And if it is the nature of the Jivatma to be active, how can you say, how can Krishna say, give up the karma? Is that why you say that karma cannot be given up? The question is Advaitin asking. You are saying karma cannot be given up. Is it because Jivatma is a permanent karta? That is why you're saying that he cannot give up karma because he has to constantly keep on doing action. Or is it that karma itself is the agent of action? So, agent of action is called karaka in Sanskrit, right? Karaka, the factor of action. Is it that karma itself is the doer, the karta? Now, this, if you remember our discussions on Buddhism over various Upanishads and Prakata Granthas, this is the Buddhistic view, the Bauddha view of the individual. The individual is said to consist to be a combination of five factors. They call it, the Buddhists call it skandha, component, right? All skandhas, all the components are momentary. They come and go, and because they're momentary, they cannot do any action. Why? Because it comes and goes away immediately, right? And something which comes and goes away immediately doesn't have, doesn't exist for more than a moment. Shanikam. It arrives in one moment and departs the same time. If you want to do karma, it has to be there for some time, right? And therefore, since all the skandhas, all the components are shanikam, components cannot be karta because they are constantly moving. Therefore, itself is a kriya. It is a karma itself in motion. And therefore, Buddhism says that kriya eva karta, kriya eva karaka. Karta itself is the karma. Therefore, every individual is not a karta. Every individual is karma itself. So, to understand this, we have to say, to remember what we say. What are the karakas? What are the factors of action? Your karta, karma, karana, upadanams, and all those things are there, right? Subject, object, instrument, locations. These are the karakams. When all the karakams come together, then only karma can take place. This is our general view. But the Buddhistic view says that this is not true. Karakas themselves are the karma. They don't have to come together and create a fresh karma. Therefore, Jiva is himself karma. Why? Because all the components, khandhas, they come and go. Therefore, this Jiva consciousness is Shanikam, momentary. And if he is Shanikam, if he himself is the karma, how can karma give up karma? Right? So, this is what is being said over here. So, let's have a look at what are the Panchaskandha, the five components of a Jiva in Buddhistic terminology. First is Sanya. Sanya means the name. Sanya Skandaha. So there's a name. Every object has a name, right? Pot, tree, bottle, glass, mountain, table, chair. Everything has a tree. Everything has a name. So all skandhas have names. Second is Rupa. All skandhas have form. There's an object. A tree has a form. A chair has a form. A table has a form. Everything has a name and a form. So Nama Rupa. Then the third one is Vedana Skandha. So Vedana is an experience. So every experience of pain and pleasure, right? How do you understand this? You have to say if the Jiva is Shanikam, who is there to experience pain and pleasure? Because Jiva comes and goes immediately. Where is the question of pain or pleasure? Therefore, pain or pleasure itself is the skandha component of the Jiva. Then there is a Vasana or Samskara. When the Vedana comes, when the experience comes, there is a impression left behind, a memory left behind. So that is a Vasana Samskara. And then there is the Vijnanam. So Vijnanam in Buddhism is the momentary consciousness principle, Shanika Vijnana. In all these five, if you look at all the five, what are they? Name, form, experience, impression left behind by the experience, and the momentary consciousness. Momentary consciousness is important. There is no mention, there is no place for an unchangeable Atma in this theory because everything is dependent on that momentary appearance of consciousness, the flicker of consciousness, Shanika And since Atma is not there as a base, the substrate of anything, the kriya, the karma is most predominant. And therefore, they say that the karta experiences the world in terms of these five principles, the five skandhas. And therefore, there is no karma apart from the karta. The karta and the karma are the same. When karta and karma are same, how can you say that karta should give up karma? This is what is being asked. And therefore, in both the situations we have talked about, it is not possible to give up karma. Now, if it is not possible to give up karma, what is the problem? Vedantically,
No moksha.
no moksha. Why?
Because the cycle of samsara will continue with the karma
Yeah, the
generating
Brahman, because
punyam
Atma
and
is
papam.
akarta. And if you accept the Atma is akarta, then you are saying that moksha is not possible. There is a problem. So, what is the answer? The answer is that we don't accept both the theories because Veda does not accept this definition of Atma. So, which theory? We don't accept that Atma is always a karta and therefore cannot give up karma. This we don't accept. And we don't accept that karma itself is the karaka, the Atma. So the first theory is what? Atma is always active and therefore cannot give up karma. This is the Sankhya theory. The second one is that karma itself is Atma because karma and karaka are the same. That is the Bauddha theory, the Buddhist theory. That also we don't accept. Right? So because of that, we can accept this. There is also another group, Vaiseshika. This is another group, a third view. Okay. Now, Shankaracharya spends a lot of time in discussing the Vaisheshika view. What is that view? He says, Atma is, who says, not Shankaracharya, okay, Vaisheshika. Vaisheshika says that Atma is normally a karta, but sometimes it becomes a karta. Normally, it is not a karta. Sometimes it becomes a karta when karma begins. So Atma does do karma at times. So Nyaya Vaisheshika also we have discussed in the past. These theories we have discussed. So we are just bringing that again for revision purposes. He says when Atma is normally not a karta, but sometimes it can become a karta when karma begins. So when karma begins, the Atma is karta. And when karma ends, and before the next karma begins, that same Atma is akarta. Right? So karma is temporary. It begins in Atma and ends in Atma. Therefore, it is possible for Atma, the Karta, to renounce karma and become akarta. It's a very combination of both the views. Right? It is since karma begins in Atma and ends in Atma, Vaisheshika says that it is possible for Atma, the Karta, to renounce karma completely and become Atma Akarta. Akarta Atma. Compare this against the Sankhya view and the Buddhist view, which was what? Renouncing karma was not possible. Why? Because for Sankhya, Atma is permanent karta. For Buddhism, Atma is the karma itself. Right? Okay. Now, we should note that we also say Atma can renounce karma, but we mean Jivatma can renounce karma. How?
By renouncing the doership.
Yeah, the kartritva.
Excellent. Excellent. So we say by renouncing kartrutvam, you can renounce karma. And if you see, Vaisheshika has come to the same conclusion that Atma can renounce karma. But the reasons he gives are different. He says you can. Atma is temporary karta, therefore he can renounce that temporary karma and then become temporary akarta. But we say that you renounce kartrutvam altogether and you can renounce karma. Therefore, according to Vaisheshika, a karma which was not existing before, and very important idea, karma which was not existing before comes into existence in the Atma and then goes away later. Right? What is the defect in this view?
It's not Nitya. If Atma, if it, if we say that it begins and if it comes into Atma and leaves Atma, then Atma is not Nitya.
No, that is why I said a non-existent karma comes into existence and then goes away. So here you have to remember what? Nasattva
It gives
vidyate bhavaha.
Yeah, Nas. Yes,
Nasattva
something with.
vidyate bhavaha. What does it
Yeah.
mean? Asataha vidyate bhavaha. The non-existent can never come into existence. But this is what who has said. Shankara says that I am not saying. Bhagavan aha. The Lord has said. Where? Gita 2.16. Nasato vidyate bhavaha. And what does Vaishika say? Asata bhava. The non-existent comes into existence. And sataha abhavaha. The existent karma becomes non-existent. Therefore, Shankara says this Vaisheshika view is defective because it goes against the very teaching of Lord Krishna, which says Nasattva Vidate Bhava. This is the Smriti Pramanam. Okay. Now, but remember that the Nyaya Vaisheshika, for him, Shruti is not the primary Pramana. For Vedantins, whenever we talk about Tarka or logic, for us it is always supportive logic. Right? We take the words of the Shruti as primary. We accept them in totality and then we use logic to support our view. Not that Shruti requires support, but logic can be used to support. But the Nyaya Vaisheshika, for him, remember that Nyaya is there, right? Nyaya means Tarka, logic. So these are, for him, logic is primary pramana, not Shruti. So he says that, you know, you are saying that it is contrary to Bhagavan's teaching. But I don't accept that Bhagavan's teaching is primary because for me, logic is primary. And therefore, the fact that it is contrary to Bhagavan's teaching, you may think it is a defect, but I don't think I don't think it's a defect. And therefore, my view holds that karma, the non-existent karma, can come into being and can go away also. And therefore, the akarta atma who became karta can give up the karma and become akarta atma also. So Shankara here says these are all, these all the discussions, they are to sharpen our argumentative powers, to give us more conviction. So Shankara says that this is what is known as asat karya view. What is asat karya view? That something existent can come from something non-existent. So Shankara says sarva pramana virodha. It is defective because it is contradictory to all pramanams. That view can be contradicted by all pramanams. How? Take Pratyaksha Pramana. Pratyaksha Pramana tells you what? Nothing comes from nothing. Something cannot come from nothing. So to get, let us say, orange juice, you need an orange, right? You can't get orange juice from nothing. So that's Pratyaksha Pramana. Your very perception, powers of perception, your eyes, In this world, they tell you that nothing comes from nothing, right? Because they're all present. In the orange, you will have orange juice present in the potential form. So let us understand this asat karyavada. We have already talked about it in second chapter, but I'm just remember that 18th chapter is a summary. So let's try to understand again. Take the most shastric example of pot, clay pot. So before the pot is made, so we use the word origination. Before the pot is made, what exists?
Clay.
Clay exists, right? Does a non-existent pot exist?
In the form
Yes.
of clay.
Yes,
Like
potentiality.
in the form of a thought, perhaps, of the
The,
Okay, fine.
doer.
Fine, let's look at this way. Before origination, there is the existence of clay. After the origination, there is the existing clay and the existing pot, right? So between the clay and the pot, now there is a connection. There is sambandha. What is that?
Clay created the pot.
Dependent and independent. Clay
Karanam,
is
Cause and
in
effect.
karanam,
Karya.
karyam. There is
Cause
a
and
cause, there is a
effect.
product. That is there. Now, okay, we say okay. But before the origination of the pot, only clay is there. The pot has not been born as yet. Therefore, even if you say that which is what is being said, even if you say that before the pot is originated, there are two things. There is a non-existent pot existing, a potential pot, a non-existent pot, and there is a existing clay. So what you are saying is that there is an existing karanam, which is the clay, and there is a non-existing pot, which is the karya. So there is an existing karanam and an existing karyam, existing cause and non-existing product. How can you say there is a sambandha, a connection between an existing karanam and a non-existing karyam? This is a question. Okay. What is the answer the Vaisheshika gives? He says, during the process of origination, there is a relationship between the existing clay and the non-existing pot. The relationship is being generated. Right? He says it is like for example, take an example. It is like a marriage. There is a boy and there is a girl. They are not related to each other. Right? So this is the idea which is giving over here. Existing clay and non-existing pot have no relation. Right? A boy and a girl have no relation. But during the marriage ceremony, what happens? The Mangal Sutra is tied, and therefore a non-existing relationships now comes into existence. So he says this is how it is. That just as during the marriage ceremony, the relationship of husband-wife, which was not there earlier, comes into existence, which means what? A non-existing relationship has now become existent. So you are saying that from non-existing things, existing things cannot come. That is not true. It can. Okay. Are you able to figure out where this argument is going? Okay, let's see this.
But it is temporary.
What is temporary? A
Kriya and
marriage
Karta.
marriage bond is
Yeah,
not temporary.
yeah. It ends finally with one person leaving.
No, that's fine. We are looking at within the scope of the exam.
Okay.
So let's look at this way. We say the Vaisheshika says the pot comes into existence. Right? Now we say fine. We accept your statement that pot, which was not there earlier, comes into existence now on origination. We say that means what? The pot has borrowed existence. Correct? You agree? The pot coming into existence, that idea can be reframed as the pot has borrowed existence. Everybody agrees to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then the next question is, who has borrowed existence? The existing pot or the non-existing pot? These all hair discussions. Okay, it's splitting hairs. When you say that,
Non-existing.
Does it
No,
mean
no,
to
how
avyaktam?
can something which is non-existent borrow something?
exactly.
Mm.
So the existent pot need not borrow existence. Why?
It already has.
It already exists. And how can a non-existent pot enter into the transaction of borrowing? So this is the argument which we give the Vaisheshika. You are saying a non-existent pot comes into existence by borrowing existence. We are asking you two things. Who borrows? And if you say existent pot borrows, then we'll say you are talking rubbish because the existent pot does not need to borrow existence because it is already existent. And if you are saying a non-existent pot enters into the transaction of borrowing, I will ask you, how is it that something which is non-existent can do any transaction at all? And
This
therefore, our conclusion is that a non-existent thing can never come into existence, which is what Einstein meant when he wrote E is equal to mc squared. Right? What does E is equal to mc squared mean? That matter converts into energy, energy converts into matter. There is never a time when matter is not there, either in its form as matter or in its potential form as energy. There is never any destruction of matter. Therefore, you can never say that matter was ever existent. What is what? Matter only. Therefore, if that part is now being manifested, you have to say that the unmanifest part was already there, not a non existent part. An unmanifest part was already there. Yeah, we have seen this in second chapter itself of Bhagavad Gita, right? Where
Avyakta bhutani.
Tini bhutani vyaktamadani.
Okay. So one would think that the Vaisheshika would have given up by now, right? He doesn't. He says, no. You're talking about non-existence, fine. But there is a very special form of non-existence, which is called prak abhavaha, prior non-existence, before birth, right? And he gives example, before the relationship is formed, a non-existent baby can form a sambandha with the mother at the time of being born. And once the sambandha is formed, this non-existing baby becomes the existing baby, which clearly has got a sambandha with the mother. Shankara says, no, this is not true. It is against Pratyaksha Praman. We do not ever experience any non-existing thing having a relationship with the non-existing things. Why is he saying this? Because remember that if any pramanam can negate any statement, that statement is not valid. And he's saying your perception itself, your sense organs can negate the idea that a non-existing thing can have a relationship with an existing thing. Right? So here it is time to recall the 4 types of non-existence. Remember this 4 types of non-existence we discussed in chapter 2 also. But these are ideas of Nyaya Vaisheshika. Okay. What are they? 4 types of abhava. Abhava means non-existence. Prak abhava. Prak means prior. So prak abhava is prior non-existence. So this prior non-existence is beginningless, right? But has an end when
And something,
When it comes into existence.
something comes into existence. So it is called prak abhava, prior non-existence, right? Then you have something called pradvamsa abhava. Pradvamsa means destruction or death. So this is non-existent after death. So most English textbooks will translate posterior non-existence afterwards, right? So this is a peculiar thing. This has a beginning but no end. Because that particular body has a beginning. So Saadi. It's got Pradham Sabhava. It will not come into existence after it dies. Right? So first one is Anadi, but Prakabhava is Anadi, but with a end.
Expiry attached to it.
Yes. Pradham Sabhava has a beginning, but has no expiry attached to it, as you say, because the body will not again come in. Then the third one, Atyanta Bhava, that which is never existed. And the normal example taken is the rabbit's horn. There is no such rabbit who has a horn. So this is Anadi Anantaha. Right? The first one is what? Anadi Santaha, means Anadi plus Antaha. Second was Sadi, having a beginning, but Anantaha, not having an end. This one is Anadi Anantaha, not having a beginning, not having an end. And the fourth one is a peculiar one called Anyonya Abhavaha. The difference between any two things is called Anyonya Abhavaha. The table and the car, they have Anyonya Abhavaha. The table is never a car. The car is never a table. Okay, if you all want to study all these things, you have to go to a book called Tarka Sangraha. This is the basic Bible for Nyaya Vaisheshika. And ideally, you should study all this Nyaya Vaisheshika, the Tarka Sangraha, Artha Sangraha for Mimamsa Darshanam, and Sanskrit grammar before you come to Vedanta, but it doesn't happen. So we are talking about all these things. Now, we are talking here about Prak Abhava, which is what Vaisheshika said. There is special sort of non-existence. Why is it special? He says this Prakabhava, this non-existing product, can have an existence with the existing cause. That is the idea of the Vaisheshika. Shankara says, in his commentary, Shankara says, listen, Abhava is simply Abhava. Non-existence means non-existent. By giving different names and saying there are different types of non-existences, there is no additional meaning given to abhava. Right? So he says abhava of one thing, abhava of two things, abhava of everything. So ekasya abhava, non-existence of one thing. Dvayoho abhava, non-existence of two things. Sarvasya abhava, absence of everything. Prak abhava, prior non-existence. Pradvansa abhavaha, posterior non-existence. Itaretara bhavaha, mutual abhavaha. All these, he says, and he adds, atyanta bhavaha, extreme abhavaha. By use of these kind of adjectives, You can never show a difference between one abhavaha and another abhavaha. He says you can use any adjective you want. What are the adjectives? Ekasya bhavaha, dvayoho abhavaha, sarvasya bhavaha, prak abhavaha, pradhamsa bhavaha, itareta bhavaha, atyanta bhavaha. All these adjectives he says use them all. But show me by the use of these adjectives what difference can you show between one non-existence and another non-existence. You can never show. Why is that so? Very simple, he says. If you have to show me a difference, you have to show me different attributes. Right? You appreciate what I'm saying? If you have to say that a glass is different from a pot, when you say this glass is different from pot, what are the attributes you are referring to?
Nama and Rupa.
Nama, Rupa, everything, right? So some attribute has to be there. When you say something is different, there has to be attribute. And can non-existent things have attributes? No.
No.
Only existent things can have attributes. And therefore Shankara says to show that one non-existence is different from another non-existence, you should be able to show me that there is a difference in the attributes of one non-existence and the other non-existence. And you are not able to show me that. Therefore, the non-existent product cannot be converted into an existent product by saying that there is a connection between the karanam and the karyam. These are all semantics, all verbal jugglery. Therefore, the Vaisheshika idea is not to be accepted. Very, very potent part of the Bhashyam. We must always remember these Bhashyams, because this clears our ideas. To summarize, so far, this Prak Abhava, pot is converted into non-existent pot, or rather the prior non-existent pot is converted into existent pot. That cannot be accepted. The idea that a prior non-existent pot gets an existing sambandha with the existing karanam, that cannot be accepted. Before the potter begins his operation, what is operation? The creation of the pot. Remember, the pot will never be available for any transaction. You cannot drink water in a Prag Abhava pot because it's Abhava, it's not there. Only after the pot is made, the Prag Abhava becomes available for transactions. Therefore, Prag Abhava alone can become Bhavaha. All types of other Abhava cannot become Bhava. The idea is there. Okay. Why did we do all the discussion? We should not, in all the discussion, we should not forget the original topic. What was the original topic?
Karma.
If karma can be given up, renunciation of
Whether karma tyaga is possible or not. Now he says that before karma tyaga, karma was existent. And after karma tyaga, karma became non-existent. Therefore, in the light of the discussion, we have to put that particular statement into different words. So he says, before the renunciation of karma, the karma was existing. After the renunciation of karma, the karma becomes non-existing. This is what is the expansion of the word. The karma tyaga is possible. Okay, because before the tyaga, karma was there. After tyaga, it is not there. So there are two questions there. Can you convert an existent karma to a non-existent karma? And or whether a non-existent karma can become an existent karma at the time of performing the karma. In other words, can the classification of the karma change from existent to non-existent and vice versa, non-existent to existent? And if you generalize this further, you replace karma by the universe. Can anything in creation change from existent to non-existent and non-existent to existent? This is the question. Okay. Now we'll come to discussion on that. So here, first one Purvapakshi steps up. He is called the Sankhyavadi. Remember that Sankhyavadi has which Vada? Satkaryavada. Right. So he says, I will accept that the non-existent part cannot originate. Something which is non-existent cannot originate. That I accept. And therefore, the existent part alone originates. This is the theory of the Sankhyavadi. That whenever a pot becomes existent, that pot was already existent earlier. Right? What is the fault with this statement? An existent pot does not need to become existent. You cannot say existent pot becomes existent. Why? Because we know, right? The non-existent pot cannot originate. The existing pot need not originate. So statement is wrong. So if you say this to the Sankhyavadi, he says, no, you have not understood me. When I say existent pot only originates, I don't mean the pot itself was existing earlier. I mean the existent pot was existing in potential form in the clay. And the conversion of a unmanifest pot into a manifest pot, this is what I call origination. And how does that conversion of unmanifest to manifest take place? The Sankhyavari says this takes place by adding a new attribute called manifest. Vyaktaha. The Vyaktaha, Avyakta pot becomes Vyakta pot. So pot is Ghataha. Avyakta Ghataha becomes Vyakta Ghataha. What has changed? A new attribute called Vyaktaha has been added. And that is how the Vyakta Ghataha became Vyakta Ghataha. Now, what is the question that you should ask when this Sankhyavari says this? If you've been following the argument so far, you will know what the question is.
What triggers manifestation?
No, actually,
No, he's
It's the
saying that
new
the attribute called Vyakta has been added. Very important. Each word is important when I say. He says the pot becomes manifest when the attribute called manifest is added. What is the question? Okay. This question
Attributes are not
is
To what?
permanent.
To what?
no. The question is
Perceptions.
this manifest attribute, right? Which you added to the avyakta ghata. Avyakta pot, you added a vyakta attribute. To the unmanifest pot, you added an attribute called manifest. And now you are saying that is why the pot has become manifest. The question is this manifest attribute, was it existing before the origination of the pot or not? It's a
The
very
form of perceptions.
no, it's a very simple grammatical question. You say that you added the manifest attribute, added attribute called manifest to the old substance, which is unmanifest pot. And because of the addition of the attribute called manifest, the unmanifest pot became the manifest pot. That is what we call origination. My question is, did that attribute called manifest exist before the pot was manifested, or did it not exist?
Potential manifestation is possible, was mentioned earlier.
No, that's why I'm saying. But did it exist or not is the question. So the point is that if you say, if the Sankhya says, Sankhya has only two answers to this question, right? The manifest attribute did not exist before, or manifest attribute existed before. There are two answers to the question of whether the manifest attribute existed or not. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right.
If he says that the manifest attribute existed before the pot was originated, then it would mean that the earlier pot, which already had the avyakta, unmanifest attribute, also had the manifest attribute. So the pot would have been both manifest and unmanifest. Like Schrodinger's cat, You know Schrodinger's cat, right? Both dead and alive. So the Sankhya cannot say that it existed earlier. Because if you say it existed earlier, you already said the pot was existing in unmanifest form. So then you are saying the pot had both manifestation and non-manifestation. Contradiction in terms. But if you say, what's the other answer? No, no, no. The manifest attribute was not existing earlier. Then what happens? If you say that it is nothing but asat karyavada, something manifest coming from the non-manifest, which Vaisheshika says he does not accept. Right? Sankhya also says the same thing. He talks about the manifestation of a non-existent attributes. So that is also asat karyavada, like Vaisheshika only. This is the refutation. You cannot say either manifest or non-manifest. Now there is a refinement. See, we say that we don't say that, not we, the other refinement of the Sankhyavadi, he says that I am not really saying manifest, unmanifest. I am simply saying change of state, change of form. Like wood is in a particular form, chair is in a particular form, and table is in a particular form. Like gold, gold is in lump form, necklace is in particular form, chain is in bangle is in new form. Right? When this is said, use the same argument. You will say, what will you say? Was this new form existing earlier or not? You can't say that the pot had both the clay form and the pot form. It could have had only one of them. Because then you are saying that the existent pot form came from the non-existent pot form. Again, it is asat karyavada only. Right? So you have to understand that pot form was not born. We have to say that the clay form gets transformed into the pot form. Then there is a further question. How can you say that clay form becomes pot form? Because when the pot form arrives, the clay form has gone. So how can you use the word become? You cannot connect a thing which has gone to a thing which has come. And therefore, there are three ideas here. Utpatti. Utpatti is asat karyavada, origination of something from that which doesn't exist earlier. Abhivyakti, sat karyavada, manifestation of something which was unmanifest earlier, and Parinama Karyavada, the third part of it, transformation of something which was there earlier. What will we say? We say that
Transformation.
we say that Advaita, we means Advaitits. We say there is only one Satvastu. Only one Satvastu. It can have many, many forms. Avidya vikalpyate. Because of avidya, because of ignorance, it can have hundreds of forms. Superimposed qualities like born, dying, fat, thin, etc. can be attributed to this one substance which is only there. Don't get into this Satkaryavada, Asatkaryavada. There is only one Sat Vastu. And that Vastu is perceived in many ways because of ignorance. This world is not Asat, not existing, nor is it Sat, nor non-exist, nor not existing, nor non-existing. Right? We are experiencing what Namarupa. Namarupa neither exist nor do they not exist. They can be seemingly existent, you can say. So in theory, you can say that we have both the unmanifest and the manifest state. And this peculiar idea is called what? Anirvachaniya Namarupa, that which cannot be explained at all. Right? So this Anirvachaniya Namarupa, when it is unmanifest, is called Maya. The same Anirvachaniya Namarupa, when it is manifest, it is called the universe. And this is the view of the Lord, which was stated in Nasato Vidyate Bhavaha. Right? So in practical terms, what does it mean? When you say something exists, like pot, it has no real existence. Apart from the clay, the pot doesn't exist, yet it functionally exists because pot can be used for transactions. Clay cannot be used for transactions, but the fact remains there is only one clay. That clay seems to be born as pot and get destroyed too to become back to clay. This exactly is the definition of mithya. You cannot ask when the pot was created because the correct answer is what? It was created at the same time as the clay. Right? You cannot say pot was created earlier. The moment the clay came into existence, the pot also came into existence. And that is the difference between Atma and Atma. Atma does not change, while everything else, Anatma, changes. Throughout the discussion, Shankara is focusing on what? Nasato vidyate bhavaha. Right? So we should know that in Vedanta there are two meanings for asat. One is mithya rupa asat, dependent existence. And one is tuchha rupa asat, complete non-existence, absolute non-existence. And you have to know from the context which is the correct meaning you should take. So when Vaisheshika says asat, he means absolute non-existence, atyanta abhava. But when we say asat, we mean mithya rupa asat. There is no concept of mithya in Vaisheshika matam. And therefore, when Shankara quotes that particular verse, Nasata vidyate bhavaha, we have to understand that the Vaisheshika asat is being refuted, which is complete, absolute asat. Not that the Advaitin will never negate mithya and totality. Okay, with this we'll stop for today. Any questions? Is your forehead feeling warm?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I do think I really lost my forehead only.
Confused as well a little bit. Yeah.
So this is a sort of discussions which go on Shankaracharya's.
We are amazed
So
at
the
your
concept,
skills, Acharyaji. How do you manage to?
the concept of mithya is only in Advaita.
Yes, there's only in Advaita. No other darshanam accepts Advaita. That's the only reason why we say that moksha is possible. A person who says that Jagat is real and Atma is real, for him moksha is never possible. Okay, with this will stop. I'll just tell you that this is not completed as yet. We'll have long discussion to carry on, which we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamada
Om Purnamada
Purnamidam
Purnamidam
Purnat
Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate
Vasishyate.
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Om Tat Sat
Om
Om
Tat
Namah
Sat
Shivaya. Thank you for your
Om Namah
patience. Om
Shivaya.
Om.
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.